When everything becomes cheap enough, winning stops meaning anything, because no one can win. For decades, China's rise looked unstoppable, the factory of the world. Efficiency so ruthless it felt almost like an art form. Cities that never slept, assembly lines glowing through the night, prices falling year after year like clockwork, until Western competitors simply stopped trying. It was the miracle of scale, discipline, and planning, a civilization turning human labor into economic power. But every miracle has a cost. And China's greatest strength, its ability to make everything cheaper, faster, and bigger, is now becoming the very force pulling it down. Welcome to Finance and History, the place where money, power, and history collide, and here, nothing is ever as simple as it looks. China's story is the story of modern capitalism pushed to its limits, a system that puts growth above everything, even if it destroys its own future. So what happens when the world's largest economy exhausts itself in the name of efficiency? What happens when efficiency turns into self-destruction? To understand that, we have to go back to the very beginning of the story. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping stood before the Communist Party and shattered one of socialism's deepest taboos. Getting rich is not shameful, it is patriotic. And in that moment, one of the fastest economic transformations in world history began. Peasants became entrepreneurs. Rural regions turned into factories. Foreign investors, first from Japan, then the United States, and later Europe, saw a gold mine, cheap labor, endless manpower, and a government ready to make deals. China opened special economic zones, test cities where the rules were different. No central planning, no bureaucracy, no ideological purity tests. Just one goal: attract capital and create exports. And the system worked better than anyone expected. Shenzhen, a fishing town of just 30,000 people, transformed into a metropolis of millions. Every province wanted its own boom. Every city wanted to become the next Shenzhen. Local governments borrowed money, built highways, and created industrial parks to attract factories. By the early 2000s, China wasn't just growing. It was devouring the world's demand: steel, coal, copper, oil. Every Western company that wanted to survive moved production there. If something could be manufactured, eventually it was made in China. But beneath this unstoppable rise was a dangerous incentive. Success meant being cheaper than everyone else. Local governments cut land prices to attract factories. They cut taxes, they cut wages. Companies cut margins, they cut quality. They cut profits. Everyone chased growth. No one chased sustainability. It was a race to the bottom disguised as progress. For a while it didn't matter. The machine was too powerful. Millions of workers flooded in from the countryside. 12-hour shifts. Wages far below Western standards. Factories never stopped. Ports never slept. Western consumers received the miracle: the $5 t-shirt, the $300 iPhone. The illusion of abundance without inflation, and China grew rich. But at some point the system began to overheat. The miracle turned into addiction. Local governments needed growth to repay their debts, so they built even more factories. By 2015, China's steel capacity exceeded that of the rest of the world combined. Industrial zones were producing goods faster than the world could consume them. Prices began to fall, not because of innovation, but because of desperation. Factories didn't slow down when profits disappeared. They accelerated. And a new term began to circulate: involution. It once described people working harder for less reward. Now it describes the economy. Companies producing more while earning less. Competition turning from innovation into survival. Solar panels, electric vehicles, batteries, symbols of the new economy. Becoming battlegrounds. Dozens of companies produced identical goods and slashed prices. Margins vanished, but no one could stop. Because losing production meant losing face. The cycle fed itself. Prices fall. Competitors follow. Profits collapse. Wages stall. Consumers celebrate at first, then realize cheap abundance comes at the cost of prosperity. China has entered an age of industrial involution, a loop where efficiency destroys profit and production erases purpose. This is no longer a race to innovate. It is a race to the bottom. And in races to the bottom, no one wins.